Hello there and welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I am Victor Matthias. With cases of the Ebola virus disease waning, there have been tensions and mixed reaction over the federal government's decision asking private and public schools to resume on September the 22nd. On the program today, we will find out what Nigerians at home and abroad feel about the decision and the efforts put in managing the deadly virus. Before we begin that conversation, let's first take a look at what Nigerians were searching for online in the past week. iPhone 6. The sophistication of Apple phones has continued to awe the world. Yet again, they have added new members to the iPhone family. The iPhone 6 and 6 Plus unveiled alongside a smartwatch. Nigerians immediately took to Google to check out the features and, interestingly, the price. Nigeria versus South Africa. Nigeria's Super Eagles played South Africa's Bafana on Wednesday, September the 10th as part of the qualifying match round for the African Nations Championship. Those who could not tune their television sets to watch the match did so via Google. Other trending topics include Nigerian students who went past the ghost of failure as they passed the NECO exams, the announcement of the commencement of Big Brother Africa after the fire incident, and Serena Williams, who won her 18th Grand Slam title. Well, congratulations to Big Brother Africa fans and, of course, Serena Williams. Let's, however, join our online contributors.
I'm of the opinion that the students should return back to school, because if we keep looking on delaying this thing, then we have to stay for the rest of the whole term. I don't know presently what section they should be in school right now, but I think if the necessary prevention measures are taken, then it's okay for them to go back to school. If they're educated on how to the sanitizing, eating, and everything is well, then they should go back to school. Because if you keep saying, we keep hearing news about 20 people, the Ebola is just one victim, all of a sudden it comes down to 20 from the Minister of Health. Because I keep reading about these things anyway. So it's like we're not even specific. We're not so sure about how many people have this thing. So for me, I think the students shouldn't be delayed because of something that there are preventive measures towards it. So it's like they should be taught on what to do, take the necessary precautions, and let the students go and learn. It's very important for them.
They should also return to school if proper precautions have been taken. Now, I have heard about a device that is in the country right now that is used to sanitize the air. It's some kind of a halo fogger, and it sanitizes the environment. So it will be Ebola or any other disease or pathogen cannot be transferred once the room has been sterilized. And they have that product in Nigeria now, so I don't understand why it's not being adapted to every classroom or every school to sterilize before the student resume. If they can take that measure, then I think that the students can go back to school. But if not, you have to worry about the transmission and spreading of this disease, because it is a deadly disease. And if proper precautions are not taken, then I wouldn't send my kids to school.
Well, if such a device is existing, then I think we should take advantage of it anyway and try and see what we can make out of it. But if the sanitizers, the local sanitizers, and basic wash your hands, which the Federal Ministry of Health recommends, is something that can prevent it, And basically, we know the symptoms of this thing, the fever and every other thing that is being mentioned. I think those are key and basic things we should look into. And if those things are well looked into, then I think we can, to some extent, prevent it from spreading out or being spread in schools. So those key things we know, why don't we work with them? Because if you keep leaving the students in school, you're like preventing them from their academics, and you kind of you know what, you know the result of what it is, leaving students at home for a very long period of time. So for me, it's like we should start with what we have and wait for other things to come in. If such a device is in existence, we should take advantage of it anyway.
Nigeria is a very big country. You know, you're talking about a country that's of 170 million people, occupying a very vast area of land. I can't remember how many square miles, but I know that coast to coast we're about 1,000 miles from one end to the other. So it may not be a case of one shoe size fitting all. You know, so by that I mean, you know, I don't think you necessarily have to prevent all schools from opening all over the country. You know, we can clearly, you know, stratify risk in this situation, and adjust. I mean, and tailor our plans according to the risk stratification. So, for instance, we do know that so far, and I say we do know because we don't know what we don't know. But what we do know is that you do have the outbreak. Actually, I wouldn't call it an outbreak. I would just say incidents. We do have incidents of infection in Lagos and in Port Harcourt. That's what we know. So you could, for now, defer kids going back to school in those states.
It's a device. It uses silver nitrate and hydrogen peroxide to sanitize the environment. And once it sanitizes a room, you know, the room can stay sanitized up to a month, depending on the influx of bodies in there. In the United States, like, hospitals are mandatory to have this device in hospitals because it prevents transmittable diseases, whether it's airborne disease or disease where you can transmit, just like Ebola. The device is actually here in Nigeria, but it's like people are not, you know, I don't think people are educated about it. But I think that in the case of where the first Ebola, Patrick Sawyer came to Nigeria, I believe if one of those sanitizers was in the hospital, that the disease might have been contained there.
There are lots of products out there that are used for disinfection and sanitization, if you like. I mean, in the UK here, from time to time, they do what they call deep cleaning of wards and clinical areas, you know, and there are numerous products. I mean, obviously, hydrogen peroxide, silver nitrate combination are used as disinfectants. I mean, that's great, you know, in the sense of helping to help, you know, spread of infection. But to be honest, in a case like Ebola, which is an evolving disease. I say evolving disease because we don't know everything about this disease yet. For instance, people are not 100% sure whether this is purely transmitted by contact or by droplets or airborne. You know, the last Liberian doctor, American doctor in Liberia, who came down with the disease, was not directly involved in treating people with Ebola. His case is still a bit of an enigma, how he contracted the disease. So it's a disease that's been, you know, we're still studying it in progress. So it will be a case of what, you know, there's a popular store here that's got a logo. They say every little helps. So it's not going to be a one pronged approach, but a many pronged approach, if you like. So yes, I mean, every effort to sanitize, disinfect, yes. But again, you know, you're not just dealing with a in-hospital transmission or in-facility transmission. You're also talking about outdoors as well, you know. So I think bottom line for now is, you know, basic personal hygiene, hand washing. You know, if in the UK here, for instance, found that hand washing is very, very it's a culture really, you know. And even if you can't wash your hand with soap and water, that you have all these alcohol sanitizers everywhere. They hung on the walls practically everywhere you walk into, schools, shops, everywhere.
The international bodies are actually looking into this. Even in my school, I studied in KTH, and there was this article I was reading about preventive measures West African countries can take, like mapping, like what the doctor actually said, trying to map out the zones where these things are very, such moves I think are quite good because it's educative. And with respect to the drugs, I don't know how far it has gotten, if it has gotten to Nigeria yet, but I think there are a lot of articles I read that they try to put up remedies or their own thought on the issues, which I think if people get to look at these things to some extent, it could help, So from what I read, I think there are moves from various countries around the world because they are also scared of if it comes over to their own part of the world. So I think they are really encouraging in one way or the other.
That because this is such a deadly disease that if any medical practitioner should report any suspected case and not to try to treat somebody in an individual in a private setting, because you never know how you can, like I said, it's still a lot that's unknown about this disease. So it's probably wiser to have a center that deals with this rather than to have an individual doctor, because we've had cases, the one ECOWAS worker that the doctor treated, and now which the ECOWAS worker survived and the doctor ended up dying. So you have, it has to be, it has to be out. Once you have Ebola, it's not a private matter; it's a nation's matter. So we have to work in together and to try to curb this disease. That's just how it's going to work. That's the only way. And they have to be. I think Nigeria has to have a plan. That the country itself has to have a plan in a way to curb this disease and not just try to deal with it in random settings.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I know I've read a lot about this poor chap who treated this patient in a hotel and unfortunately lost his life in the process. I mean, okay, I read a lot of people said he was greed, money, blah, blah. I would say, from a professional point of view, I'll just say it was an error of judgment. Okay? It was an error of judgment. You see, it's a disease, like I said, we don't know much about. This is the first time it's ever been reported in West Africa, ever, since records began. So up until now, no West African practitioner could have claimed to have any experience, even though we're in the tropics. We're in the tropics, like other countries that have had Ebola right from 1975, 76. It's been mainly in East Africa. So it was just an error of judgment, I would say. I mean, in principle, there's nothing wrong in treating a patient. I mean, in the UK here, you can call your own family physician to come see you in your house. You treat people at home. If you feel you're too unwell to go to the hospital or to go to the doctor's office, just ring your GP and somebody will come see you at home. So the concept of treating a patient at home or in a home-like environment in itself, it's actually a standard practice. But I think the questions are, I mean, it's been speculated that he knew this chap had Ebola before he went to see him. Now, I don't know. He's not here to tell his side of the story, whether he actually had reasonable grounds of suspicion that this patient had Ebola before agreeing to treat. I mean, there are circumstantial evidence to suggest that, but we still don't know. We can't be 100% sure. Whatever the case, I think there was some error of judgment there.
Well, you just heard them yourself. However, to add your voice to this conversation, just tweet at us using the hashtag #CurbingEbola. Time for a break, and we will be joined by Channels TV's health correspondent, Mary Alale-Yusuf.